everything's important as well. Then when it comes to the breeding goals of the dam bred Duroc, you will see when it comes to productivity, not productivity, like your litter sizes, good mothering abilities, none of that stuff is applicable for the dam bred Duroc. And that's why Jurgen said that if you take a slaughter pig, which is a 50% Duroc, it's not a good sow to keep back to breed from them, because it might look like a short-term solution and say, yeah, I'm saving money, I don't have to buy pigs in, but in the long term you're going to lose money. And yeah, pig farming is not a hobby, it's a business. We want to make money from it, so that's why it's important. Here you can see on productivity it's 80%. So here you can see it's pig litter, weaner growth, finisher growth, killing out percentage, feed conversion, lean meat percentage. So the breeding goals of the Duroc is the opposite of your maternal lines. Then dam bred's number one rule of life. We breed for pigs that have the lowest cost of production per kilogram of carcass produced. The only factor that the farmer can control, or this is the only, in terms of your lower production cost, meaning bigger litters, that's something that you can control, your efficiencies. But feed prices and meat price is something that you have no control over. So we need to farm more efficient to get to this. This is just some results that has been achieved by dam bred. They use this, Sedgwick is a company that does all the testing for us and puts all of the data together. This was figures from last year in Denmark. You can see the Duroc total born of 10.2, where if you come to your cross breeds from your F1 sitting at 19.1, 20.4 total born. So that means that you get double the amount of piglets from a sow if you have the right sow in your herd. This is just the growth. So this Boglengaard is one of the test stations, a board testing station in Denmark. Here you can see, so we always say that the average daily gain of your Duroc is very good. It's sitting at almost 1.3 kilograms per day from wean to, from 30 kilogram to slaughter. But if you get to your Landrace and your Yorkshire, they also grow over 1,100 grams. So this combination gives you a very good slaughter pigs. And then you can see even the lean meat percentage of the Landrace is even higher than that of the Duroc. So all of this helps you to get a full value pig. Then sow replacement. What is a breeding program? It's a breeding program is a planned breeding of a group of animals, usually involving at least several individuals and extending over several generations. So it means you'll have sows of different, you'll have gilts and then sows over different parities. And this is normally by natural mating or artificial insemination. The aim of this is to get newer genetics into your herd. So if we don't follow a breeding program, you won't get newer genetics into your herd. And like I say, as the breeding goals develop or evolve and get better and they change it, that will also come with new generations that you bring into your herd. Then, if a breeding program is not followed, you will get to a point where you reach inbreeding. So if you buy a gilt and you buy a sow, a boars, and you breed with them, you keep that offspring back and you just put them back onto your sows, for example, a boar, you will get to a point where you get inbreeding because you don't follow a breeding program where you bring in new boars into your herd. So it's either buying in gilts or buying in boars. I think most farmers normally buy in the boars, or they just rotate the animals between each other. So I know a friend, I go and get a boar from him, he buys a boar from me. But at the end of the day, if you don't buy your animals from someone that follows a breeding program, they can't guarantee the type of animal that you get from them. Then how it works, for example, so you get nucleus herds, which is your Landrace and your Yorkshires. Then you have a multiplier, which produces F1s, and then there's commercial farms. So you must decide, whether you want to breed your own animals or are you going to buy these animals from a multiplier, someone that follows a breeding program, someone that you can trust. Because at the end of the day, if you take your money that you've earned and you buy pigs from someone, you want to know that you buy the right animals. Because if someone sells you an animal that they say it's a Yorkshire, but meanwhile it can be a F1, just because of the upright ears doesn't mean it's a Yorkshire. It's a Yorkshire. Then what's the difference? Difference, we get maiden gilt, we get gilts, and we get the sow. A maiden gilt is an animal that a pig that has not been mated yet. A gilt is an animal that's pregnant for the first time, and a sow is an animal that has farrowed at least once. Then a replacement gilt. Replacement gilt is a female animal that is waiting to be mated for the first time to enter your herd. So this gilt will replace an older sow that's not productive in your herd. So it's very important that we focus on our gilts and that we manage them well and that we have the right quality, because this will be your next generation of your herd. If you don't bring in new animals, you have sows that's going to, say for example you have 20 sows. Now you say, I'm buying 20 sows, I don't have to replace them. But you will have animals that die, animals that don't come on heat. Then you might sit with 17 sows, and if you have a market for the offspring of 20 pigs, but you never brought in replacement animals, you will sit with gaps in your market that you can't sell any pigs to. Then it's very important to have a good culling policy to say which sows should be replaced and why do I replace them. So there's different reasons of why we sell or why we cull animals. Here's just a few. We want constant genetic improvement, that's why we replace them. Sow longevity, disease, injury, lameness, mortalities, poor production, and age. Things to consider when you replace your sows. It's what's the cost of that replacement gilt. You must remember, buying in a replacement gilt from someone, if you don't breed them yourselves, or let's put it, if you get a replacement animal, whether you buy that gilt or whether you breed that gilt yourself, there's a cost to that. If you breed your own gilt, it's not for free. You still pay something. So if you have that animal on your farm and you buy in from someone else, remember you slaughter out an old sow to replace your gilt. So you only pay a small part extra for that replacement animal of higher genetics. So it's to get genetic improvement, production, performance of different parities. What that means is we see parity 1, you get say 15.6 born alive with the F1s. Then second parity you go to 16 born alive, and then parity 3, 4 and 5 is where you get the best production of your herd. Then also, like I said, there's a value of a culled sow. Now, based on genetic improvement, which focuses on the lean meat percentage, this is an example of, say, the 1980s, how pork meat looked, very big piece of fat, and then 2010 it got better. And this is actually pictures from a customer that we received. They slaughtered this pigs at around 86 kilogram carcass, and you can see it's a very lean carcass. And at the end of the day, if you have to go to the shops and get that, you're not going to buy that because it doesn't look nice to eat. But something that's lean, you can see it's a redder color, lean carcass, and that's something that looks pleasant to buy, and that's what we breed for. And then when it comes to feed efficiencies, say 30 years ago you had a feed conversion of 3.3, so it means you had, say, 330 kilograms of, that doesn't represent maize, it represents feed. So for a pig to grow up to 100 kgs, it had to eat 330 kilograms of feed. But today they eat 240 with a feed conversion of 2.4. So if you take 90 kilogram difference over 1,000 pigs, that's 620,000 rand you save just on a pig that is more feed efficient, that uses that feed or less feed to produce a kilogram of meat. And then this is just a distribution more or less of what's the reasons for culling. And then how to work out your replacement rate. On a commercial level, replacement rates normally goes from a 45 to 55%. There's some farmers that goes up to 60, 65%. And then if you have a multiplier on nucleus herd, it can go up to 100%. So it's very high when it comes to that. And that's just because the genetics goes that fast. If I made a gilt today, in 47 weeks, that offspring, or the offspring from that sow would be born and will be served again. And that genetics is already better than the mother itself. And that's why we need to replace better to stay in line with what genetics is doing. So if you take your number of sows times your replacement rate, so say 50, let's say if you have 100 sows, and you replace them with 50%, it means you need to buy in 50 sows per week, per year, and then you divide it by the amount of weeks, and that gives you a total number of pigs that you have to bring into your herd a year. If you have, say, a 3-week system, Colin spoke about it, then you divide the 50 pigs by 17, and then you get the number of pigs that you have to bring into your system every 3 weeks. Gilts. So there's different options, like I said. Either you breed and select your own gilts, you purchase it from a breeding company, and then the question is, which one is the best option? Remember, if you breed your own gilt, so for example, I made a sow and I get a litter, I can maybe select 4 or 5 piglets from that litter. And if you have a born alive of 14, the other 10 piglets you're not going to use, that's slaughter pigs. But if you mated that sow with a terminal sire, that other 10 offspring would have grown a lot faster if they were mated with a terminal line. So it's the value of that gilt, there's a value to breed that gilt, but because the rest of the pigs, there's also value to them, and the feed conversion is not that good, the mortalities is more, and that is also a cost that gets linked to the gilt that you produced yourself. So one option is to have a nucleus herd. We have landrace in all Yorkshire, sows and boars of the other one, or you buy in semen, then you produce your own F1s. The other option is to have a crisscross breeding program. So you have a F1, which is your first generation gilt, 50% landrace, 50% Yorkshire, and then you mate that gilt with a Yorkshire, for example. Then if you get the F2, or if you get the F2 that's born from that litter, you will mate with the Yorkshire. So a gilt is always mated with, let's put it like this, she shouldn't be bred with the same boar as, or breed boar that her father is. Then replacement gilt should be treated as a breeding stock and not finishing pigs. One thing that we see is someone gets gilts, they put them on a grower feed and they grow too fast. We need to make sure that we have an animal that grows and develops slowly, because we want longevity. We want a sow that's strong on her legs, that can raise piglets and can stay in the herd for 3.5, 4 years. So one thing is the correct selection. How do we look at the conformation, the legs, the vulva, the number of teats? That stuff we have to consider, front legs, back legs. Then nutrition. It's important, we want to feed a gilt so that she achieves a weight of 150 to 165 kilograms at around 230 days. Now that's 32 weeks more or less. We want to mate them at 31 to 34 weeks. So that's the optimal weight. So weight and age. So we want them to grow. It doesn't help us say, oh, but we see on our farms, we can achieve that weight if we really want to at 28 weeks, but then you don't develop the animal, you just grow them out very quick, and then they will fall out. So then this is just an idea of a growth curve. You can see you want it slowly, you don't want it just to jump up. And then this is just the feed curve. So you get to a point more or less here, 230 days, where she will have a constant amount of feed that she eats per day. Then a vaccination list is important. What we've heard a lot this week is farmers asking for a vaccination list. dam-bred animals is not special when it comes to I have to do this vaccination or I have to do this vaccination. Vaccination program for pigs is similar, doesn't matter what pigs you have, whether it's Farrow Shore, Letterguard, certain things like that would be the same for all pigs. But when it comes to the diseases, whether you have mycoplasma or APP, so that type of diseases has to be treated with a vaccination program that the vet has to consult. Remember, if I have a generic vaccination program for my farm and I give it to the next farmer, it might not be applicable to them. So you might inject stuff that's not needed, or you inject the wrong stuff. So now you're not treating the diseases like you should. Then boar stimulation is important. Introduce a boar at 28 weeks, and then you can mate them on the second heat. That's stuff that's on our breeding program, on our app as well. And then it's important record keeping. When do I need to vaccinate my gilt? Because remember, if I don't inject at the right time with the vaccinations, it might have an effect on my longevity and the litters that I have in the future. I need to make sure, when do I change her feed? When should she start boar stimulation? What's the weight? And all of that is important of the record keeping to make sure that the gilt is treated properly. And then if a gilt is not mated by 11 months, then you can call her out. Then she's not going to come on it. Then, when you purchase gilt from someone, make sure it's a trusted source. Don't just go on Facebook or WhatsApp group and buy pics from anyone that says, listen, this is what it is. Remember, there's people that buy an animal, say from dam-bred ones. They follow their own little breeding program and they tell you, listen, this is a dam-bred pig. It's not a dam-bred animal. It has a dam-bred influence. But if you come to me and say, listen, this deer boar that I bought from farmer B is not performing, I can't do anything about it because I'm not the one that supplied you the pig. They didn't follow a breeding program. So rather phone us and say, listen, we're a group of 20 farmers that wants to import pigs. How can we do it, and how can we make a plan to get the pigs here? And in the long run, we want to get to a point where the genetics for dam-bred animals is available locally, so you don't have to import pigs the whole time, whether it's breeding stock, whether it's semen, and this just makes it more accessible for you. Then we can say, listen, this person in Zimbabwe is a registered source with dam-bred, and they're allowed to sell the genetic, and they can help you with the right breeding stock. So if you buy the pigs, make sure that you assess the pigs. Make sure that the position of the legs, like do a confirmation, check that the confirmation is right, check that the number of teats are right. Because remember, you're buying an animal that you paid money for, so you want value out of that pig. Quarantine the animals separately from your own herd so that they don't get affected like all at once. So you want them to adapt to your farm over time. And then, so then I'm just quickly going to touch on artificial insemination. I know artificial insemination is something that's becoming more popular, and it's something, I think there's a lot of benefit to artificial insemination. For cheap money, you get new genetics on your farm. You don't have to house a lot of boars, because like Jurgen said, if you do natural mating, boars under a year can only mate one sow every 7 days. A boar that's older than a year can only mate a sow every 5 days. So if you have a lot of sows in your herd, say 100 sows, and you have a weak system, it means you need at least 7, 8 boars on your farm. But if you do artificial insemination, you can get away with 1 boar. So there you, and if you buy a boar for natural mating, you're going to buy that boar, you're going to use him for 3-4 years, he becomes too big for your gilts. So, yeah. So, artificial insemination is the process of collecting semen from a male pig and then manually depositing that semen after it's processed into a sow or a gilt. Then, like I said, I think in the emerging market and small-scale farmers are also starting to adapt it. I think there's a lot more research. It's not very difficult to do. And then 1 boar can mate 10 to 20 sows instead of mating 1. Then what happens before you receive semen? So the boars are bred on the multiplying farm or the nucleus farms, and then they are monitored, and then they are sent to the AI station. There they have a genetic value, and then they are used in a controlled environment where they are tapped on a weekly basis for the semen. The semen is then tapped at 38 degrees Celsius, and then analysis is done, and they dilute it with the extender. The extender is basically something that makes, it's like antibiotics and a food for the semen to keep it safe, that you can store it at a lower temperature for a longer period of time. And this is then sent to you on the farm. This is the AI station. Then, like I said, quickly, advantages, we know what the concentration of the semen is. Because the analysis is done, if you do natural mating, you don't know if the semen is alive when you do the mating. You don't know what's the concentration of that semen. It's more hygienic. You can do the quality control of the semen. You get new genetics, so superior boar lines in your herd. You get summer infertility is reduced because you have controlled environments. And then it's also, I think the biggest thing is the size difference. If you have a boar that's 4 years old, you can't mate the gilt, it's going to break her legs, and then you can't use the gilt as well. The disadvantages about it is, when it comes to frozen semen, the conceptions is not that good, but with fresh semen, artificial insemination, we get conceptions of 90–95%. So the success rate of artificial insemination is very good. The logistics of ordering semen, there is logistics. You have to make sure that you know how many sows are going to come on heat next week, meaning you have to do your record keeping. You need to know how many sows you've weaned. And then the person that you're buying your semen from, you should put the order in, because if you don't do it in time, you're not going to get your semen. There's logistics about it. And then when it comes to working with fresh semen, there's a lot more responsibility. You have to store it, make sure that you keep it at the right temperature, make sure that you have the right consumables. But the benefits is a lot more. So you may wonder, why all this trouble? A farmer's goal is simple: to produce as much output with as little input as possible. Genetics plays a significant role in the pig industry in achieving this goal. Purchasing semen from a reputable pig genetic company integrates the newest genetics into your herd weekly, keeping your farm competitive. Now you have a business that you can run. So what's keeping you up at night? Which production goals would you like to focus on? Do you want to maximize the number of piglets that you market from your herd? Increase the number of weaners per litter? Unlock the full genetic potential of your farm? And secure steadily available high-value semen that you can use on your farm. And this is just a few pictures of results that we've had from customers. And then on the Dambred app, it's www.dambred.com. Here you can find a knowledge hub. There's different on-farm manuals, tools for production, articles that's been written, trials that's been done by SAGES. And then this is the app that Jurgens has spoken about. You can either view it on one of the Play Store or App Store, or you can do it on the internet itself, where it gives you guidelines. One important thing when it comes to the feeding, if it says there 3 kilograms, it's based on a specific nutritional content. So protein should be at a certain level, lysine and everything. So just consult with your feeding company to make sure whatever nutritional content is in your feed, that you change your feed quantities according to that. And then this is just our contact details as well. So that there is my number, that 0741, that's the office number, and there's my email address and my colleague's email address. If you want to reach Jurgens, he's just jurgens@dambred.co.za. Thank you.